So have you seen anything like this in the UK? Any kind of
That's what really scares me, and that's why I want to be here to talk to you guys, because a lot of people, most of the time, you don't really pay attention to something until it's at the critical stage. Like Toya was just saying, when I was doing a bit of background reading, the case has been fought from the day that it was ruled in. There has been people fighting against it, like they've not stopped. As for the UK, I've never thought one day, oh, abortion rights are at risk, or there's a potential that they could be revoked. But now it's just like the government, they do things, and if you're not there, if you're not tuning in, these things are going on behind your back and you don't necessarily know.
Was this like a surprise to you guys?
It really was, because you guys are like, what, the land of the free, and we have all these dreams about the US. Like, I'm not gonna lie, we do idolize you guys a little bit as a country. Like, I'm just being very honest. Some people might disagree with me, but we do. We want the lifestyle. We want to go to LA and see the Hollywood sign. We want to be, it's very glamorous on the outside. What we see, obviously, we hear the stories about the guns, the school shootings, and all that stuff. We kind of like, okay, with the guns and all that stuff, it's kind of become a norm. It shouldn't, but it has. Police brutality, all that stuff. We're kind of like, we're used to it. We kind of expect it. But the abortion stuff now, that completely took us all by surprise. What other laws could be targeted by the currently predominantly conservative justice Supreme Court system, or whatever you want to?
Now, are you talking in terms of like reproductive rights, or are you talking terms of anything?
In terms of anything. That's why I mean it could open a discussion. So I wanted to leave that right at the end.
Gotcha. I think some other things that just have been out there is marriage equality. Has been another thing that's been discussed as something that may be targeted moving forward. So I think also just the even more stripping down of women's reproductive rights, access to abortion. Not access to abortion. I'm sorry, access to birth control, things like that. I think that Republicans' ideal is to have it so it's all up to the states. How things are governed are up to the state. So the federal government has very little say over things, and then the state decides. And so how far can that go, right? How far could that possibly go where someone's marriage is not acknowledged in a certain state, or they were married and now that is they're no longer acknowledged. And because that has a lot of nuances to it. From emergencies in the hospital, your spouse or who you're married to makes a difference, because that gives you access to that person in those, emergency situations, or who can own, who can share property. And so I think this is really the beginning, I think, of possibly them stripping away a lot of the progress that has been made over the past 50 years in terms, and this is across the board, not just the LGBT community or women's rights, voting rights, and different things. I think it could be the start of a stripping away of a lot of things that we consider progress over time.
Like it has been thus far.
Mm-hmm.
Hope, do you mind if I ask my next question? Okay.
I didn't answer your question, Hope. I just want to make
sure.
Yeah,
you did.
Okay.
Because I was just in my head the whole time you're talking. I'm thinking, why do the state or the Supreme Court believe that going back is better than the progress that we've made? Why do it's just it's like regression rather than progression to me. Like, I don't understand why there's this ideology that the old way was better. So do they believe that when women were just sat at home looking after the kids, that was better? When no sex marriages didn't exist was better? When slavery existed was better? I mean, these people are still alive and in power. So what are they? How far are they to go?
Yes. The short answer to that is yes. I think that that the abortion issue is more, it's not about saving children, because if that was the case, the US would do a lot more to support parents, to support access to quality childcare. They would really protect children that are in school. And it's about controlling women. That's the only thing that from my point of view that I can see. It's controlling women, because when women have a choice over their body, what restrictions do they have to live a certain life or live a certain way? You know, women are from over the past 50 years. Think about it. 50 years ago, we could barely own our own bank account. And now not only can we own our own bank account, we can have a business, we can live whatever life we want. We can compete in a way that we haven't been able to.
It's painting them to see women succeeding and being so great. I think the way that we're living, all the way from people living their best life on a yacht, shaking their ass, all the way to the women in power, lawyers, running schools, running companies.
Yes.
And across the whole spectrum, women are winning in so many different ways, and they're showing they're so liberated and free with and without kids, with the choice of having kids and with the choice about having kids, with the choice of being married or with the choice of being single. I think that has just pained them, really. It really
yeah. And I do think that some men feel like women have a place, and how women live today is stepping outside of what they feel like that place is, you know. So I think that a lot of this targeting the reproductive rights of women is really not about saving any children, but about controlling and oppressing women.
Because as soon as that little girl is born, all her rights are being stripped away from her. You saving a little fetus, but once she's born and she's that woman, she don't have no choice. As of right now, in some states, she won't have a choice. So what was the point of doing all that? For her to live a life where she can't necessarily do what she wants to do or do what's healthy for her. So
right. And then that baby is born possibly in a poverty stricken area, or born in where there aren't great access to even good food or good education. You know, to me, if they really cared about children, they would invest in the development of children. They would invest. But even if they did do all those things, I still feel like at the core, a woman has a right to choose to take on parenthood or not. But I do think if their argument is often, let's save the kids, save the children. Well, then other policies is how you save kids. Other policies is how you support parents. Right. It's really just a very, it doesn't align with what they're saying. It's really a cognitive dissonance, how you can completely disregard policies that actually support parents and children, but say that eliminating abortion is supposed to stop abortion, because it will not. So, yeah.
So I Hope kind of touched on the story earlier. This young lady posted, I'm not sure where she lives, but I'm pretty sure it's a state where abortions are very, very limited. So she said, I'm just gonna leave this here. This is what I look like right now. I almost died last week. I feel like less of a woman, all because of the overturn of Roe v. Wade. I had an ectopic pregnancy, and it was literally decided by a bunch of people who don't even know me that the fetus growing inside of me that never should have been there because I did have birth control was more important than myself. I needed an abortion. I waited for days for surgery because even though my tube was ruptured, they weren't allowed to treat me without speaking to lawyers, etc. I lost 1,000 cc's of blood. I had tubes shoved down my throat, and now I'm missing huge parts of my body that will affect me for the rest of my life. I'm devastated. And then the rest is stuff that I decided to cut out. She was just sharing her feelings, which respectfully so. So yeah, with you guys, I think Hope, is this the story that you were talking about earlier?
No, because the woman I was talking about is still pregnant, and the thing is, her baby is currently having seizures in the belly and having major complications while in the belly. I think she's past 34 weeks now. The baby's having seizures and has very poor life quality. However, she cannot get rid of this baby anymore. So the doctor was telling her that now her only options are for her to basically wait for the baby to die in her belly, and before they can actually actively do anything. Like, that's the words that were used: wait for the fetus for itself to no longer be alive. And what was shocking to me, I was reading through the comment sections.
That's horrible.
It's horrible, right? And
Yeah.
this was obviously, she says, I can physically feel when the seizures are taking place. I can feel the temper in my belly. I can feel my baby suffering. And as much, she's connected to this baby. She wanted this baby originally. It's not like she never wanted the pregnancy, but she knows that what her baby's going through and she can't do anything about it. And there's men in the comment section talking about it's God's will for her life, and this baby could survive, it will live, it will come, and it will be fine. But either way, this baby is suffering, and chances are they're not going to survive, but they're just going to suffer until end of life, which is just hard.
And I can only imagine the trauma that woman is experiencing, you know, to have to carry a child that has a very unlikely chance of living because of decisions made by people who don't have a uterus and people who don't have to carry that child. So yeah, this is the policing of women's bodies, and this is what that looks like. It's very well, baby's a blessing anyway. That is objective. That is, and a lot of people base it on their religious beliefs, and that's where I really have an issue with. I mean, we are the United States of America. We're not the United States of Christianity. We're not the United States of Catholicism. So you are supposed to be able to live here and have different belief systems. And I don't think that us trying to implement religion into laws, into our government is in a good direction at all. And it really actually goes against what, is supposed to be the whole premise of America, right? The land of the free. So I think that's an example of how dangerous, having restrictions like this can be, because they don't consider those nuances. In case in point, you have a woman who's probably going to have a psychological suffering for the rest of her life experiencing something like this. You know what I mean? When losing a child, is already hurtful enough, but to have to go through it in that way that's torture.
I couldn't imagine. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Both, I mean, the one lady's gonna have scars for the rest of her life, and the one is gonna never be the same, honestly. Mm-hmm. So to end this off, can this decision be reversed, or is there anything that the president can do about this decision? I'm gonna throw this one to Toya.
Okay. So the president, alone in his role, cannot necessarily say, okay, we're not doing that. It really does come down to Congress and the Senate having to make a decision as to how to move forward. Things, and this is where voting really comes into play. I know that some people feel like, oh, vote doesn't matter, it doesn't count, but these are your representatives. So if people are able to, similar to the Supreme Court, where they're able to spend 40 years in a role and do nothing for the community that they represent, you don't gain progress. And we're actually seeing in real time how the representatives in some of those southern states are now impacting progress being made across the entire United States. So Joe Biden can't do it solely by himself. He needs Congress, and he needs the involvement of us as voters to vote for progressive candidates, so that we can really start to move this conversation in the direction that truly represents who we are as Americans, truly represents supporting women and women's rights. And also what I would say is, when it comes down to voting, I encourage people to not only look at your local elections, your state elections, but also state elections in other areas. So for example, Georgia, right? You don't have to live in Georgia to support a campaign in Georgia for a candidate. So that's something that, you know, probably when Donald Trump got into office, I really started looking at, well, wow, like we are really seeing how all of these Republicans are lined up in these different areas, but they're able to come together and block progress. So it's about trying to get those people out of here. In this particular election, we have about 21 Republican seats that are up for re-election. And so what can an average person do? They can start to look at some of those. Now, they might be in a Democratic state, right? So I live in a Democratic state, but there's nothing wrong with me finding ways where I can support a campaign in Georgia, support a campaign in Mississippi, support a campaign in these other places where we know that restriction to this type of care is an issue. We know that laws are being put out there that really not only impact women, but Black and brown communities of lower socioeconomic status. So I think we really have to start to look at our role being a lot bigger than just our local neighborhood or just our state. We can have impact in other states as well by supporting candidates who are progressive. And inherently that does help us as a collective move towards a more progressive future.
Yeah, overall. So I like that. So just because I don't live here and just because I don't live, that doesn't mean I can't, oh, guys, look at this. I might have friends in Atlanta never, oh, guys, did you know, try to this person, you know, so that's good advice.
Right. You can contribute to campaigns anywhere. There's no restrictions on that. So, you know, watching some of those elections, you know, for example, Stacey Abrams is running for governor against Brian Kemp. Brian Kemp is the one who put the ban in place for the 6 weeks. So, you know, you can support Stacey Abrams from another state. No, you can't support her with your actual vote, but you can donate to her campaign. You can put people, you know, talk with people about the importance of voting, talking with people about the importance of voting for candidates who really embody the future that we see. I think it's really easy to remove yourself from the process and say, well, it doesn't matter, I have just this one vote. But there's so many other things that you can do in order to really promote that this is important. And we're at a pivotal, crucial point in our history as to what the future is going to look like for, like I said, for women, but also other vulnerable communities.
Yeah. I don't understand, why is voting so not appealing? Is it the way we're raised and brought up? Like, it's like, I don't know, in minorities and like lower class societies, it's not really like embedded in us.
I feel like, sorry, were you about to go?
No, go
ahead, you're a younger person, go ahead.
Yeah, I feel like some people in my generation, they feel like voting doesn't matter, voting doesn't do anything. The choice is already made. No matter what I say, it doesn't matter. It won't help. So I feel like you on the outside, I understand that's how it should be, but on the inside, some people are already like, oh no, if I vote, my vote doesn't matter, my vote doesn't count. Who's going to be president? They already know who's going to be president, like things like that. No, some people don't believe that your vote counts or your vote matters. So
and I think, you know, one thing is, and maybe Jordan, you can attest to this, did you have civics in school, like a civics class?
I don't remember having civics. I mean, history.
Okay, so when I was in probably the 8th grade, civics was a class we had to take where we learned about how to be a citizen. We learned about how the government works. We learned how to be an active participant in the government. We learned about checks and balances and how the government works. Civics is now something that's not even barely offered in schools. When I ask people, like, did you take civics? Like, no. So a lot of it, Hope, is this misinformation, guys, of how our government works.
It's literally the blind leading the blind. Like,
yes.
People don't have the knowledge. Why are you listening to them?
Right.
They're just theorists. That's what they are, really.
Right. So you have like people who don't understand how government works saying, well, it's not going to matter anyway, but they don't even understand how it does matter. So you have behind the scenes Republicans, right-leaning, conservatives taking advantage of ignorance.
Of ignorance, yeah.
They want you to not know the power that you have. And because here's the thing, if our vote didn't matter, then they would not have spent decades, centuries to try to restrict our vote. They wouldn't have cared if our vote didn't really matter. But people have died for the right to vote. You know, people have marched for the right to vote. People have really fought for this right to vote. So and historically, it's been a constant effort of Republicans to strip voting rights down. And if they can't strip the voting rights down, then they strip the impact of certain areas and how they vote and different things like that. So that's what, so this misinformation, all it does is help. It helps them, you know, strip us of our rights and different things. Because, you know, when you look at it from a historical standpoint, we were never meant to vote. We were seen as property when the Constitution was, you know what I mean? And voting was for rich white men.
Yeah.
When you think of it that way, who are the ones who really are trying to restrict those votes? Rich white men. So they know that we have power, but we have to know that we have power. And by us not understanding the political process and how the government works is all a part of sending this message that, well, it doesn't matter anyway. Because if I don't understand my impact on something, I may resort to, well, it's not going to matter anyway to me. But so it's a matter of rebuilding that understanding. And I think that taking civics out of school, and I really think that's a part of just making sure that we're all confused.
And it just made me think back to me in school as well. The only political thing that I ever received in high school was a class called citizenship, and that class was never taken seriously. The teacher was everybody there. It was up to you to do it or not. And the only thing I remember was everybody registered to vote. We got told one time. Some people registered, some people didn't. And they will not educate you on the importance of your right to vote. And then furthermore, they will just say it once and that was that. And it was left to that. And then some people who had the natural urge for politics, you could tell the kind of family and background they come from. Whereas the oblivious lot, the people living in ignorance, you could tell as well the background they come from. And it's just so obvious. It's all to do with from the home to the education system to the society they live in. And it's just like, it goes on and on and on. And where does it end? We are the ones to break this cycle of living in ignorance, because they benefit so much from it. Like you said, like the government, we could overthrow the government and how they are right now if people would just come together and do their part. Do you know what I mean?
But like you said, if you are taught that your voice doesn't matter, that you don't have control over what happens in your community, then, you know, you start to believe that. And especially when you don't understand the political process, you don't understand the government, they want nothing more than, especially those Republicans and right-leaning folks, they want nothing more than for you not to vote. So by you saying, I'm not going to vote because it doesn't matter anyway, you are doing them a favor because they don't want you to vote anyway. But when we all can get together and when we all can rally together in numbers and actually vote for the candidates that truly represent the future we want to see, then that's impact. And we have to understand that. And that really takes a lot of knowing how the political process works. And so I just feel like it's all working together. And really keeping us in ignorance as to how things work, so that we don't involve ourselves in the process.
No, and we come to live in a cycle of reacting rather than acting before something bad happens, before we actually pay attention to it. Like it's happened during COVID. What were we doing? People were ready to protest for the Black Lives Movement because of something that happened. We were reacting to something that happened. We're so quick to react, but we're not, when everything seems like, okay, nothing's going on. Nobody saw the abortion laws coming. Well, some people did. Toya obviously knows a lot.
And they've been attacking it for years. So but to your point, it's like we wait until the wound is hemorrhaging to do anything. Yeah. And it's unfortunate, but I think we all have power and we all can use our voice to really bring light to these issues. And sometimes that's having a conversation even amongst your circle. If you have a friend who feels like, their vote doesn't matter, or just having conversation of the importance of that can be something that helps people kind of lean a certain way. Reading, I find that reading really is empowering, because you can learn about something. It's not enough to say, I don't understand how voting works, and leave it at that. No, read something, educate yourself on how things work and the importance of your voice and your vote. So I think that it's up to us now, because we can't depend on the educational systems and things to teach us about the political process. So it's really up to us to make sure that we're knowledgeable about what's going on and how we can help to make change.
Yep. Yeah. I think it's no better way to end the conversation, because y'all, listen, if you're watching this, take LaToya, Hope, and Jordan's advice. Go learn, go out there and learn different things. Go participate, go vote, go do anything. And most importantly, educate yourself, because they're all, like these white men are tying together, banding together. I think we as a community could do the same thing to make change and actually move forward. Yeah. I think that's it. I mean, I'm not even gonna ask y'all, do y'all have anything more to say? Because y'all just killed it. So
Thank you, Jay.
you're welcome. I mean, I was just sitting here like
having a conversation.
Yeah, I was just like, yeah. Yep, that too. But okay, thank you guys so much. Thank you so much, Hope. Thank you so much, LaToya, for joining us on another episode of Daily Dose, the podcast, and we'll see you guys next time.